Hey guys, this is Tracy. Welcome back to Love Your Shelf. Today I am doing an A to Z book tag that I saw someone else do on BookTube. I watch a lot of BookTube, but you know, I'm new. Not a lot of people have watched me, so you're supposed to tag people after this, but I'm not going to. I'm just doing it. I'm going to go through those today and hopefully we find some books that we have in common or something that you haven't read you've been interested in, or you tell me something that goes in this list that I can read and like. So that is the hope with this. So the first one is author you've read the most books from. That would be Fredrik Backman. So I did pull anxious people from here to talk about Fredrik Backman. He's the best. Like, it could be Backman, it could be Bachman. I've heard it both ways. Psych reference. And, yeah. So he has a new movie just came out with Tom Hanks called A Man Called Otto, which is from A Man Called Uva, which is the first book I read from him. And it originally wasn't my favorite, but I think it might be my favorite by Fredrik Backman now. Although, like, he has one that's Things I Want My Son to Know or something that made me laugh and cry. Like, he always makes me laugh and cry. Every single one of his books makes me laugh, and every single one of his books makes me cry, like 100%. Anxious People was really good. It was my favorite for a while. It was the second book I read from him, but I think I also just really love Beartown. Like, the very first Beartown is really amazing too. So Fredrik Backman is definitely one of the authors I read the most or have read the most. I'm pretty sure I've read everything he's come out with. Best sequel ever. So this one was hard for me, but I tried to pick specifically like a series where I thought the second book was the best book. And that is The Obelisk Gate by N.K. Jemisin. This series is really good. It's between a 4.25 and a 4.75 for me for the whole series, but the second book was my favorite because it introduced the main character's daughter, and the main character's daughter as a 10-year-old had so much insight into like human psyche and survival and how to manipulate her father, which is something she needed to do, which sounds really sad, but it also opened up like the resolution to everything they were going through in the first book, and how we are going to get there before the last part, which is when we do get there, obviously. So yeah, it was a really good book. It's from the Broken Earth trilogy, and I highly recommend that to anyone that really is into, I'd say it's more sci-fi than fantasy for sure. And it's just a really, N.K. Jemisin, she just has really original ideas. I don't feel like she does anything that anyone else does. So if you're going into a series or trilogy, I don't feel like you can compare anything she does to anything else. Let me know if you disagree. Like, I want to know if there is someone that does something like N.K. Jemisin does. Like, I'm interested in that. So yeah, that is the best sequel that I have. Currently reading, so right now I don't have those books, hopefully I'll pick them up, but I'm reading Ember in the Ashes, because someone that I follow just read the whole quadrology, is that what you call a 4-book series? Quartet. And he like loved it, and my brother read Ember in the Ashes and he said it was really good too. He didn't finish the rest of the series, but I thought that I would try it out, and so far it's very good. I'm about halfway through the first book, and like really just everything that happens is insanely horrific pretty much, and I'm waiting for something to like be good. It's a very dark series. And then I'm also physically reading Hell, I Love Everybody, which is a poetry collection. Oh yeah, I do have it up here. So Hell, I Love Everybody, which is the essential James Tate, which I don't know who that is, but the Hell, I Love Everybody is about how Jesus loves everybody. It's a poem about how Jesus loves everybody, and he says, like, hell, I love everybody. And I thought it was funny, like, satirically when I read the first poem. So I got that. So I'm reading that too in bits and pieces as I'm going through the year. Next is drink of choice. So today it is morning. Good morning. I do have my coffee. This is a quad shot of espresso plus 1 Americano shot with steamed oat milk and caramel. But I also really enjoy drinking tea at night. So yeah, coffee and tea, that's what's up. E-reader, physical or audio is E. So I read most of my books audibly because I drive so much and I listen to it in the car, but there's nothing to me that is better than hanging out on my lounger with my Loki, who's my best friend, my dog, or my hammock, and reading a physical book. And I love, like, when you travel, the ability to bring an e-reader. So really, any option to read is a good option. That's what I think. There's no better, it's always good, just in different ways. So, fictional character you would have dated in high school. This one was so hard for me because I feel like the people I would have dated in high school are so different than the people that I have dated as an adult. But, so I really got into my high school years when I dated a bunch of musicians, for the most part, and I decided that I would have probably dated, Daniel from the Ensemble. Hold on, because I'm going to drink more coffee first, and then I'll grab this book. Delicious. Okay, so Daniel from the Ensemble is kind of like an underdog with a shitty attitude because he came from nothing and he had to work his way up to the top to be this amazing cellist, but he's kind of an asshole. And I feel like someone that's really good at music that is kind of an underdog, that's kind of an asshole, totally seems like someone I would have dated in high school. The Ensemble is a book I originally gave a 4.0, and I put it up to a 5 because after I read it, I could not stop thinking about it. I'm probably going to reread it at some point to see if the things about it still stick when I first read it. But I'm very, it's such a good book, and it was her debut novel. I don't know why, but I get really into authors in their debut novels, I feel like. And then, afterward, nothing that they come out with is as good. I don't know why. So we'll see, or it just takes forever to get something else out. We'll see. But there has been times that has been not true. But yeah, anywho. So, glad you gave this book a chance. I don't have it, but I read Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers this year, which is by the same author that wrote Dial A for Aunties. And I read Dial A for Aunties last year, and I didn't like it at all. I felt like it was just way too stupid to be funny. I didn't like the characters because they just made the stupidest fucking choices. And I didn't think that it was funny. It was supposed to be satirical, and I was just like, how is anyone this dumb? So I had to read Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers for book club, and it's by the same author, so I was like, dang it, that sucks. It is such a good book. I gave it 4.89, something pretty high reading wise. This year I'm trying to do a Dave Portnoy thing and have no round numbers. So I gave it pretty close to 5 stars. It was almost my first 5-star book of the year, but it didn't quite make it. And I don't know why. Maybe I will change that, but it did get 5. If you round up, it's 5 stars. It's a really funny book. Vera Wong is just so incredibly hilarious. And it made me think about and want to start reading more books about strangers who coincidentally have something in common that meet and build a community, which is what happens in this book. And so it has gotten me to branch out to read more books like that. I've read 3 this year. Another one I really liked, and another one is my least favorite book of the year so far, or second to least favorite or something. So very interesting. But yes, for sure, glad I gave that book a chance. It's hilarious, and I suggest y'all read it if you have time, if you haven't. Hidden Gem. This one's hard because I feel like there's so many. I read a lot of books that are very underrated, but overall, I decided what I'm going to put as Hidden Gem is Little Weirds by Jenny Slate, which is a little weird, but in the best way. The way that she proses everything, like the prose that she has in this book and the things that she says are so much like women, feminist, fuck yeah, but in just the weirdest, most beautiful way you can say something. And so I'd say that this is definitely a hidden gem. It is very satirical but super serious at the same time, and the way that it's written is just super unique. And so I decided that that was definitely going to be my hidden gem. Important moment in your reading life. So this one was hard for me too, because there have been multiple important moments in my reading life, but I chose to Shake the Sleeping Self by Jedediah Jenkins. This book is about Jedediah Jenkins. It's a nonfiction book. It's about how he bikes from Portland to Patagonia, and he ends up meeting up with friends and family along the way, and at the end he hikes with his mom. But it's really about him, a guy who's gay that grew up in a church, kind of dealing with and fighting with his own inner demons and everything that he's been brainwashed to believe growing up in a church as a gay man. And this is a important moment in my reading life because I grew up in a church as a pansexual woman, and there's so many things that he talks about in regards to shame and being confused about who you are and over emasculating to prove to yourself and others that you aren't the thing they don't want you to be. And it really helped me. It gave me insight to how books can really honestly help you overcome your own trauma, and help you see, like, authors have the ability to take everything that you think and write it in their own words, but it's your words too. And it's just such a beautiful thing that authors have the ability to do this. And since then, I've read everything that Jedediah Jenkins has wrote. He recently wrote Mother Nature, which is about him and his mom going through, and he has a pretty crazy relationship with his mom because she is, like, she's not into the gay thing, like, for lack of better terms. Like, she's told him that she doesn't think she could come to his wedding if he found a man he loves. Like, it's heartbreaking, but he continues to be in this relationship with his mom and loves her for who she is and gives her the chance to show up. And talking about it is gonna make me cry. It's just really beautiful. Like, we as human beings, we are told, like, you shouldn't have toxicity, but, like, we are all human beings and we are all trying the best with what we have. And so it's really enlightening to me to watch him become who he is and still allow his mom and give his mom that chance to be in his life. So anyway, I'm sorry. I got emotional thinking about that, but that's an important moment in my reading life for sure, because he has helped see me through some of my own things, and it's been really amazing. So yeah, okay, we're gonna move on So I just finished Record of a Space-Born Few by Becky Chambers, which is the third book in a also quartet, but then she came out with a fifth book that's like, so it's part of the Wayfarers series, which is a whole world that she's created where there's a ton of aliens and people live on different planets and different spaceships together. And so this is the third one, and I loved the first book, and the second book was pretty good, but I really loved the characters in the first book, so it's hard for me to give that up because the second book doesn't follow them except for one person, and this third book doesn't mention them at all. It does mention one person because one of the main characters is the sister of one of the main characters from the first book, but like it doesn't talk about them, and I really miss those characters, and to me, if we don't go back to them, this series isn't as good as the first book, but it was still good. I love Becky Chambers. I love the world that she creates that's so full of non-judgment. So it's good in that aspect, and she is a good storyteller. I just didn't fall in love with these characters as much. But that is that book, and She Started It. I finished them both around the same time. I read She Started It for book club, which is a thriller that's supposed to be like Agatha Christie's, what is the one where they're on an island, and then there were none, and like Mean Girls put together is what it was described as, which is exactly what it is, by the way, but I'm not a thriller person, and I'm not a Mean Girls bully person. I do like Mean Girls, the movie, but bully-wise, I'm not into stuff like that. It makes me so sad, and so it was kind of heartbreaking. And, like, the plot twist wasn't really a plot twist for me. But yeah, those are the two books I recently finished. Kind of books you won't read. Horror, for the most part. The number of bookcases you own. I have 6. I have 4 in here, and then I use this giant bookshelf that is a closet as a bookcase, and then I have another bookcase in my living room, so 6 total. One book you've read multiple, just kidding, I totally skipped M. M is Minor Book Hangover and why. So my Minor Book Hangover is definitely from the Renegades trilogy, which I read last year. It is incredible. There's Renegades, Arch Enemies, and Supernova. It's by Marissa Meyer, who wrote Cinder, like the Lunar Chronicles, which is also very good, but this Renegades trilogy is incredible. It's about superheroes. It's very political, enemies to lovers kind of trope, but also, like, it's okay. I hate saying enemies to lovers tropes, but actually I think enemies to lovers tropes are probably my favorite, because they really help you gauge the fact that everybody's doing the best that they can, and we all have different opinions about things, and we can change and we can love throughout that. So, I mean, Romeo and Juliet were enemies to lovers, kind of. So, yeah, anywho, Renegades trilogy. I did not want to read anything after this because I did not want this trilogy to be over. I loved the world it was in. I loved the characters. So yeah, that's my book hangover. Okay, so then number of bookcases I own, 6. Okay, then we're gonna go to one book you read multiple times. There's very few books I've read multiple times that aren't children's books, but The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand is one of them. And I read this in high school, and then I reread it last year to see if it still had the same effect on me. When I read it in high school, I loved Howard Rourke, and I still do love his ideals and his ability to stand up for himself, but I don't love him the same way, which makes sense because we've, come further than that as far as sexism and stuff. So yeah, The Fountainhead. The next one is preferred place to read. So my preferred place to read is my lounge, which is right there with my doggo. So that's one of the bookcases I was talking about. It's above there. And one of the things I love about it is that it's next to my bookshelf that has lights. And right now you can look outside and there is a beautiful tree. So yeah, that is my lounge, my favorite place to read. Let's see if we can get this. Yeah, that's good enough. Okay. So the next one is a quote that inspires you. So this is tough for me, not because there aren't a million quotes that inspire me, but because unless, like, there's not a lot of quotes that I've saved, but this year I started doing that. Like, I started writing down quotes with books that I've read and things that they've said. So this is going to be from, oh, this is hard. I'm going to read two. That's fine. One is from the first book I read this year, which is Time as a Mother by Ocean Vuong. Not Even by Ocean Vuong. I promise you, I was here. I felt things that made death so large it was indistinguishable from air, and I went on destroying inside it like wind in a storm. I love that. Yeah, that means a lot to me. There's a lot of things that we go through as people, and just continuing to be that storm is important for yourself and those you love. The other one I'm going to read is from Warrior Girl Unearthed. So she's talking about her parents, and she says, "It's an ordinary Saturday that feels extraordinary. I watch them, hoping to lock in the memory. Maybe you can help which memories get preserved, like storing seeds in a cold, dark, and dry place to keep them alive. Maybe someday I'll think back on the awful college tour, and it won't be about Pauline being eager to ditch us. Maybe all I'll remember is how we sang along with our Helen Roy music CDs, Patsy Cline, Johnny Cash, and Elvis songs with Ojibwe lyrics. Maybe someday I'll remember when I was 16 and it won't be about getting fired or how the first boy I liked dumped me before we even got started. Instead, I'll only remember fishing off the dock with my dog and my dad, cooking omelets to order, and my parents kissing just because the lilacs were in bloom." And that's like a really good quote to me because it helps you gain perspective about having gratitude in life. Nothing is perfect, but finding little perfections in every day is what's really important. So those are some quotes that motivate or inspire me. Reading regret. So I have two. One of them is Animal Farm by George Orwell. I had to read it in middle school, high school, and I hated it. And I want to read 1984 by George Orwell. Everyone talks about how amazing it is. And I can't bring myself to read it because I disliked Animal Farm so much in high school. So I'm going to say that is my big regret. There is one other book, but we're going to skip it because I already did one. So we're good. Series you started, you need to finish. The Lightbringer series by Brent Weeks. So I read the first book, which is The Black Prism. It's phenomenally written as far as like the crazy stuff that he's doing while he's writing it. But the storyline hasn't piqued my interest enough to get into the second book because this is like thousands of pages for real. Like, I think the first book was like 600 or 700 pages. The second book is just as large, like there's 6 or 7 books. So I haven't finished that series or gotten into the next one because I know like once I pick it up, like I have so many pages left and that's so many other books I'm not reading and that's hard for me. 3 all-time faves. That's hard to pick just 3, like really hard. I will go over, I'll try, we'll see what we can do. So Into Thin Air by John Krakauer is definitely one of my most favorite books. It's his memoir about climbing Mount Everest where there was a storm that came in really unexpectedly and people died, like people that he knew and loved. and it's him recounting that experience, and it is incredible, and it's so eye-opening to climbing Mount Everest and the things that go into that, and that's really interesting. The second one I'm gonna pick is The Martian by Andy Weir, mostly because not only is it super inventive and such a good story, but I resonate with the main character so well. Like the beginning of this book, and I've said it so many times, the beginning of the book is him just like cussing up a storm about how he is screwed, because he is stranded on Mars alone, which is like, what? No. So he's amazing. He's like a million times more smart than I am. Obviously, he was in NASA and he had like a double major, and he was good at being alone, which I'm not, but we talk the same. So I really enjoyed it, and it's such a good sci-fi story. And then the third one, it's so hard for me to pick, you guys. But I guess I will say, The Night Circus, by Erin Morgenstern. This is another book that could be important moment in your reading life, because this is one of the first books that I ever read where I could visually see everything I'm reading. I'm not a visual person. Like, if I say shower, I don't think of a shower. I think of the word shower. So to actually get me to read something where I'm looking at words and I can see something is a big deal. So I would say The Night Circus like always has a special place in my heart because of that. So those are three of my all-time faves. I wouldn't say they are the three all-time, but they might be close if I'm being honest. Unapologetic fangirl for. I am an unapologetic fangirl for the Scythe series. So this is book one of the Scythe series by Neil Shusterman, and it is about scythes. Like, they have gleanings instead of deaths, where people that have been chosen and have training for it become the people that kill you. So like, they just show up on your door like Grim Reapers kind of, and ask you how you'd like to die. And like, in some cases in other cases there's not. Like, obviously there's people who wield too much power that do wrong things, but I'm super a fangirl for this series, and for the two main characters who are not enemies to lovers. They were just two people that fell in love that were doing the same thing. So yeah, definitely a huge fangirl for that. Well, I mean, maybe not huge, but as much as you can be. I'm sure there are people that are more fangirly than I am. But yeah, very excited for this release. So the release that I'm very excited for is the new TJ Klune book, which is the second book to House on the Cerulean Sea, Somewhere Beyond the Sea. That's supposed to come out in September. So it is the sequel to House on the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, Somewhere Beyond the Sea. By TJ Klune. I'm super stoked for that. House on the Cerulean Sea was amazing. It's one of the books that I would say, like, you have to read it audibly, because the audible version I read of it is, the audio version I read of it is chef's kiss, superb. Like, the person that did it had amazing voices for each character that really brought them to life. So I'm very excited for the second one, and it is definitely a book I plan on listening to via audio, because I'm hoping that the same like guy reads it and does all the voices. I'll be very disappointed if that's not what's up. Worst bookish habit. That's super tough. I don't know what my worst bookish habit is. Like, maybe randomly bringing up in conversation books that I've read. I'm sure that probably irritates the heck out of some people that don't read, but that's definitely probably what I do, because there's just certain things that remind me of something I've read. And yeah, anyway, X marks the spot, 27th book on shelf. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 27. Ooh, okay. Griffin and Sabine, 27th book on the shelf. I did just take out 3 books, so I don't know if this would have originally been it, but that's okay. Griffin and Sabine is amazing. There's a bunch of these. It is literally about 2 people that correspond, and normally these books are like $60, and I found 2 of them at, so this is literally what was in the envelope. I found 2 of these at Goodwill, and the letters are still in there, which is amazing. They're not all letters. Some of them are postcards, but they're just, it's really an amazing book. Oh yeah, maybe they are all letters. And look, there's letters in here. No, yep, some of them are postcards. So yeah, these are books that my sister got me into when I was in high school. And then I found them at Goodwill for like $4 each, even though the set of 3 is like $60 normally. So I got the 2, even though it wasn't the set. I don't care. I was excited about them. Let's see. Your latest book purchase. My latest book purchase is the last book I purchased for the book crawl that I did for the independent bookstores. And that is The Phone Booth at the Edge of the World, which I hope to start reading soon. It's by Laura M. Messina, and it just sounds like it's going to be a super cute, very feeling book. And I've been really reading in my feels lately. Normally, like in Storygraph, it shows that adventure is my top, and then like reflective and then emotional. But it's been very reflective and emotional and sad this month. So if you want to hear about sad emotional books I read, stay tuned, because that video will come out sometime too. And then the last one is ZZZZZs, the last book that kept you up at night. I don't know. I know what book it is. Okay, it was Dark Matter by Blake Crouch, which just became a series on some streaming platform. And it was good, but I mainly stayed up because I just wanted to know how it was going to end. Like, it definitely captivated me in that sense. Like the suspense of what was going to happen and how he was going to tie it together at the end. And it was kind of unexpected. Like, I didn't expect it for some reason. I was like, oh shoot, that's not what I expected. That sounds dumb. Of course, that's what unexpected means. But yeah, so that is my A through Z book tag for everything that I've read probably in the last few years, because that's what came up. That's what came up when I was looking at this. No, it's for life, because like Animal Farm was in there from middle school. So yeah, that is my A through Z. Have you read any of these books? Are there books that came up for you? Like, what books came up for you for this A through Z? I want to hear about them, especially authors you read the most books from. I feel like that's a huge accomplishment for those authors to shout them out. Yeah, let me know. And hidden gems, ooh, that's going to be a good one for people too. So yeah, let me know what you've read. My name is Tracy. Thank you for joining me on Love Your Shelf. I look forward to talking about books with you guys more. Thank you so much for joining me. Like and subscribe if you'd like. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.